when I went to the Democratic National Convention, they talked about every special interest group on the planet except for the one that had fallen furthest fastest, young men.
Yep.
And the people who are leading this fight and made the conversation much more productive, very simple, mothers who see what's going on.
You write in this book, algorithmically generated content on social media contributes to and profits from young men's growing social isolation, boredom, and ignorance, with the deepest pocketed firms on the planet trying to convince young men that they can have a reasonable facsimile of life on a screen. Many grow up without acquiring the skills to build social capital or create wealth. The statistics are insane. Like 45% of men 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person.
Never asked a woman out in person. And what they're up against, think about it, you could largely describe America right now as a giant bet on AI. 10 companies have driven all the growth in GDP, are responsible for 77% of the earnings growth. Our economy literally rests on 10 companies now, often referred to as the Magnificent 10. They do several things, but quite frankly, they're in the business of enragement, polarization, and then sequestering young people from all other activities.
And that's only
yeah, and CNN's like, hey, that's my business.
Getting worse given where AI is going. I mean, with like agents and chatbots who are sexily clad anime type figures chatting with young men.
Well, it starts pretty.
I really don't think that this is going to be a problem. I don't. Access to pornography at any moment, at any time, all in your pocket. That is the problem. This idea that men are going to be sitting there chatting and talking to an AI bot, if anything, it might help their literary skills. Maybe if the chatbot can correct their English, that might be helpful. But no, I'm not worried about that. If anything, women would be the ones that would have relationships with AI.
Innocent. When you use AI, have you noticed the prompts that are almost irresistible at the end? Let me put this in a series of tweets.
Right.
Before you know it, you're 3 hours deep. But effectively, these companies have been...
That's never happened. Who is that happening with? I don't know anyone who has been on AI longer than 10 minutes. And that's because they're trying to get an answer. They're trying to create something, an image, a graphic, and the AI is fighting them and saying, no, I don't want to create that because it's against my guidelines. There might be some projection going on here with Scott.
Attach the entire economy and literally trillions of dollars to trying to get people to, or trying to convince young people, specifically young men who are more susceptible, because quite frankly, their prefrontal cortices isn't as developed, to try and convince them they can have a reasonable facsimile of life online. Why go through the hierarchy of trying to make friends? It's not easy, right? Why try to figure out how to navigate a corporate, all this, when you can go on Reddit or Discord and find friends, or you can trade crypto or stocks on Robinhood or Coinbase? And why, Anderson, would you go through the rejection, the dressing well, the effort, the expense, the humiliation, developing a kindness practice of trying to establish a romantic partnership when you have literally lifelike synthetic porn? So what are we doing? I think we have our economy is attached to one objective, and that is to evolve a new species of asocial, asexual males. Unintentionally, we have an economic interest right now, I would argue, in planning our own extinction.
So what do you do? I mean, because this juggernaut is not about to slow down anytime soon, the AI juggernaut.
I think there's a variety of things you can do. Starting very young, I think you need to redshirt boys.
You have boys. I have two boys.
Two boys.
It's terrifying when you look at these stats.
I think a couple things. Education. We need to redshirt young boys. They're just less mature. And you're going to see as you get older, my 15-year-old has a party. The boys are dopes. Some of the 15-year-old girls could be the junior senator from Pennsylvania.
I see that in 4-year-olds.
So red shirt, start kids in kindergarten at 6. Get more men involved in K through 12, where 70 to 80% are women who are naturally going to champion people who remind them of themselves. Boys need more male.
Now we're getting to the meat. This is something I have said over and over again. Men, go into K through 12 education. I worked in K through 12. More men need to be in K through 12. When I went into the teacher's break room, and I'm the only guy in there out of 20 people, it's a little silly. Also, single men, if you're looking to find a woman who already has a career, not a bad place to find them.
We really have a social zeitgeist where the moment a boy comes off the tracks, which is typically when he loses a male role model, at that point, he is more likely to be incarcerated than graduate from college. Whereas girls in single-parent homes have the same outcomes. It ends up that boys, while being physically stronger, are emotionally and neurologically much weaker.
And yet also, I mean, at age 3 and 4, I see it already, girls have the vocabulary, or at least the desire, to talk about what they did in school, whereas boys, it's like pulling out teeth.
The reality is our brain doesn't catch up until they're 25. goes into college. Any school, any college, in my view, that has over $1 billion endowment and isn't growing its freshman class faster than population growth should lose its tax-free status because it's not a public servant, it's a hedge fund with classes. And my industry is so corrupt that we've decided the ultimate way to create artificial scarcity and extract more margin from middle-class homes is to limit our supply. Dartmouth sits on $8 billion endowment, lets in 1,100 people, which is what a good Starbucks serves in a weekend. There's no reason why they couldn't let in 11,000, quite frankly. More vocational programming and, quite frankly, put more money in their pockets. We've had tax and fiscal policies for the last 40 years that have made my generation, on average, 72% wealthier than we were 40 years ago, and people under the age of 40, 24% less wealthy. So what do you have? 60% of 30-year-olds used to have one child in the house 40 years ago. Now it's 27%. So we have they're up against technology, trying to separate them from their friends, make them less mammalia. We have fiscal policies, quite frankly, making them less wealthy. And then we have social media reminding them 210 times a day that they're failing. And what do you know? They wake up at 30, they're more obese, anxious, and depressed. And if we don't, my generation has a debt. We'd recognize America from 1955 to 2000 garnered a third of the world's growth with 5% of the population. And then within that 5%, 30% of us who were born white heterosexual males got the majority of that prosperity. So there's a natural gag reflex when I start talking and advocating for young men. But the reality is my advantage, my privilege, they should not have to pay the price for it. People in my generation have a debt. One, we need to get more emotionally involved in their lives. Men aren't stepping up. In this city, there are 3 times as many women applying to be big sisters as there are men applying to be big brothers. And then we have figured out, when I say we, my generation, how to vote ourselves more money. And we keep extracting more and more capital from young people to old. The prices of housing have gone absolutely crazy. The price of education has gone crazy because we've realized the way to get our houses more expensive is through a lack of permits, make it more difficult for people to get in college. And what do you know? The child tax credit gets stripped out of the infrastructure bill, but the $120 billion cost of living adjustment in Social Security flies right through. So they have less money, less opportunity. And we also have to acknowledge a basic reality. 75% of women say that economic viability is important in a mate. Only 25% of men state that. Beyonce could work at McDonald's and marry Jay-Z. The other way would not happen. So when you have the pool, men mate socioeconomically horizontally and down, women horizontally and up. And when the pool of horizontal and up, in other words, economically and emotionally viable men, keep shrinking, we have less household formation. And just to finish off this word salad, the cartoon of a woman in her 30s who doesn't find romantic love and what a tragedy she's living alone with her cats, that's not the tragedy. She's fine. Men need relationships much more than women. A widow is happier after her husband dies. A widower is less happy. Women in relationships live 2 to 4 years longer. Men in relationships 4 to 7 years longer. The zone of self-harm inside for a man is the year after he gets divorced, when he loses primary relationship. And what is the reason, the biggest cause for divorce amongst young people? It's financial strain. We need to put more money in their pockets. We need an education system that restores sort of bias or fixes the bias for women. And we basically need to level up all young people, which will disproportionately help young men. When I went to the Democratic National Convention, they talked about every special interest group on the planet except for the one that had fallen furthest fastest, young men. And the people who are leading this fight and made the conversation much more productive, very simple, mothers who see what's going on. And the dialogue goes something like this. I got 3 kids, 2 daughters, 1 son, 1 daughter at Penn, 1 daughter in PR, and my son is in the basement playing video games and vaping. Mothers see this. Governor Moore, Governor Newsom, a lot of senators are basically talking about, for the first time, they are coming out and saying there is a problem with our young men. Governor Moore has said he's going to devote the next year to the struggles facing young men and to boys. This has become a much more productive dialogue.